Leaving Los Angeles. How are you? Thank you all for being here tonight. Most of you, some of you know me, Christian from Beyond Fest. Obviously it's a great privilege to be here tonight for the 25th anniversary of Stir of Echoes. It's incredibly special because part of this anniversary celebration, the film is being re-released on a remastered 4K that's coming out on Tuesday. So if you love the movie, go out and buy it on Tuesday as well. But before we get to Tuesday, we're going to watch it tonight, and I think, someone give me a nod, I think this is the first time that this 4K is actually streaming in a theater anywhere. So this is an incredibly great privilege to be able to do this with all of you tonight. So I know that there are some fans in the room, and I'm going to come around and ask, is there anyone who has not seen this film before? Ooh, yeah, you're going to get rocked tonight. This is awesome. It's a creeper. It's a real creeper, and it's so good because it is more than stood the test of time. It's only gotten creepier as time has gone on. I have to give a huge shout out and thanks to everybody at the American Cinematheque for putting this together with the team from Lionsgate. So we're going to have a shout out for everyone there, in particular Alex and his team, all the volunteers from the American Cinematheque. And we have Sam, a real life projectionist up in the booth. Hey Sam, nice to see you. Thank you for being here. I'm going to be joined on the stage afterwards by a couple of people. You might have seen one of them coming through. He might be the star of the movie. So stick around. I'll ask some questions. You'll ask some questions. But we're also going to be joined by the screenwriter and the director, who's also going to introduce the film right now. Please welcome to the stage of the Egyptian, Mr. David Koepp.
Totally my crowd. Thank you, I love you all. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for coming. I just also haven't been in the Egyptian since it's been redone. This has been fantastic. It's really exciting. Movies don't often get a second life on screen. It says it's 25 years, which happened in about 40 seconds in my mind, since we made this movie. And to be able to see it, it's been retimed, remastered. It's in great shape. Thank you, Lionsgate, for caring about keeping these things, making these things nice and putting them out on DVDs where people can watch them, because people still do collect DVDs. A really special movie for me. I'm proud of the way the movie turned out. I'm also equally as delighted to have made a lifelong friend in Kevin. Well, 25 years, not lifelong. We'll see. We'll see how the rest goes. I feel you overhyped a tiny bit. It's pretty adequate. So anything beyond that, I hope you do this. And we'll stick around and talk about that. Thanks for coming.
So, as I said, we're going to be joined right now on stage. So, please give a very warm welcome back to the stage. He is the writer behind Jurassic Park, Mission Impossible, Spider-Man. When he's not making or writing giant movies like that, he's creeping us out with movies like this, both as a screenwriter and as a director. Please welcome back Mr. David Koepp. The next gentleman needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway because he's the best. He has taken an arrow through the neck in Camp Crystal Lake. He tried to shut down the Animal House. He drives a mean cop car. He has flatlined. He just got his ass kicked by Maxine fucking Minx. He is not one of the few good men. He's one of the few great men. Please welcome the Kevin Bacon. Gentlemen, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
How does it feel 25 years later watching this film all over again and revisiting creepy ass Chicago?
I can't make it through the movie without having to pee. That's what 25 years will do to you. It's funny. You've heard people say this before, but my family will attest to this. I really only see the movies, and I'll see them a few times when we made them. I really like to look at dailies. I really like to see cuts. And then once they're out, I really put them to bed and then in my memory file. So it's very rare. Kira was saying to me tonight as we were driving over, she says, this is kind of like a first for you, that you go and look at something after so many years. And it's true, I just don't. So it was cool, I mean big, like amazing, like so many crazy memories floating back. And of course, I look at it and I go, oh God, there's so much shit I wish I could have done better, but that's just, part of what being an actor is. And I was super, super impressed with my friend David's work.
Thank you. I was struck by, I think the movie's very good. I think the movie really works. And there, I said it. And I was struck by the idea that when a movie does work, it has to have, as I've done more as I've gotten older, I've become convinced, it can't be one or two people who do really good work, and therefore the movie works. You need about seven. And about seven people who are absolutely nailing it. And I feel like Kevin nailed this. Katie Irby was terrific. Catherine Irby, I really was struck by her performance this time. There's a terrific child performance in it, which is, uncommon. Fred Murphy, the DP, boy, is that beautifully shot. James Newton Howard, lovely haunting score, and the director didn't fuck it up. So I feel like it held together very, very nicely. And the locations, boy, am I glad we went to Chicago and not Toronto and not Southern California, but nothing against Southern California, but boy, does that have a distinct look.
It's, it feels really special. It feels timeless. It doesn't, it hasn't aged. With the exception, I'm watching it and I'm thinking, this feels as contemporary today. The only thing that stuck out to me was the fax machine. But other than that, it looked as fresh today as it did back then. You referenced Chicago. It's very different from the original setting. And let's talk about that for a second. Prior to this, you made one film, True Effect. What was it that brought you to this piece of literature? Because this was originally a Richard Matheson book from the late 50s. What was it that attracted you to that book in particular to make this film, and was genre a place that you wanted to play?
Well, I wanted to work more squarely in genre than the first movie was. And I love spooky movies, and I wanted to do one of those. And I wanted someone else's story, because it's a little lonely. When you write and direct, there's a real danger of getting too far in your own head. So I found this in a used bookstore, and I love Matheson. You know him. I mean, most people here would know him. Anybody here who has the name doesn't ring a bell, you know his stuff. Most of your favorite Twilight Zones were his, and a dozen great books. And Duel, Spielberg's movie. He was just a legendary writer in fantasy and horror. And so I found this book, and it was 40 years old, and I found him and asked him were the rights available. He said, no, I sold them right when it came out, but I can't remember who I sold it to. And then, we asked about his agent, and he said, well, he's dead. So we went to the Library of Congress that keeps contracts, still to this day. And we found the original contract, and we called him and said, you sold this to Universal. And he said, that's it, I sold it to Universal. So we called Universal, and they said, we don't own that. So we got the contract, and we showed it to them, and they said, oh yeah, we do own that, it's very important. You can't have it. And eventually we got the rights. And he had said it in Southern California in 1958 during the space race and the boom in the airline industry in those, quickie suburban developments that sprang up. But Southern California's suburban settings for a horror movie, Steven did that pretty darn well, so there was no point repeating that. And I wanted to go back to somewhere I knew. I grew up in rural Wisconsin, and my mom's family is from a neighborhood just like that, and I visited a million times as a kid, so I wanted to put it there. I also didn't want like an upper middle class family in a beautiful house. I wanted a family that was a little different look than we'd seen in this kind of movie.
It works. The city is a character unto itself, but there's no character like the one that we play, Kevin. What drew you to this, and at what point did you become involved?
I don't really remember, but
It's only been 25 years.
Yeah, I mean, listen, what drew me? I mean, it's a great part. I mean, I loved where he was at with his life. That's, to me, that's when I look at the movie, I said, well, that's the thing that kind of kicks it all off. That he's not happy. He loves his wife, he loves his kid, but he has dreams that are clearly not going to work out at this point. And aside from you do horror, you're gonna have to spend a lot of time being scared or looking, like terrified. And so you sort of have to start that with a strong point of view in terms of the character that doesn't relate to the horrible things that you're seeing. And to me, that's what this movie had. Like I just knew him, I sort of knew him and heard him and that whole thing. It just seemed like just a great part. I mean, I don't think I took a lot of convincing to that movie.
I think we hit it off right away. We sent it to you. You said, yeah, maybe let's meet. So we went to Good Enough to Eat, as I recall.
Interesting.
And
what did I have? It's such a good memory.
That part I missed.
What did you have?
Turkey burger.
Turkey burger.
And we hit it off because it was about someone who thought they were not quite as ordinary as they had turned out to be. And I think about how does anyone not relate? No matter how wonderful your life may have turned out, you always feel like, yeah, but I always thought it was a little more special. No one's ever gotten quite enough. And so that was a guy.
Yeah, I remember reading that Ordinary and going, it's such a great, you're such a great writer in terms of just finding the word that's just comes at the right place for the person to say. I just didn't think that I would be, or my life would be this ordinary.
Well, what's lovely is the moment in the kitchen. I was struck tonight. I remember when he says that, you turned and walked away in the middle of the word, which I thought was so much more compelling than fucking genius.
Come on. And by the way, we were talking before about, let's get some props as we did before, but to Catherine Irby, who has to hear that word and take it in and still, stick around and become the eyes of the audience, really. That's going, this guy's out of his mind, and so much the heart of the movie, and I thought you just did such a beautiful job of that.
Yeah, you play off each other perfectly. How did you achieve that chemistry together? Because you feel like a real couple in there, and I think that you have to, in order for the film to really work. You've got to be, as an audience member, as if you're watching this thing, it's grounded. The film is grounded throughout. And then it has these flares, these moments of the fantastical. But it's this family story. You referencing Spielberg and obviously Poltergeist. There's some shades of that in here, but this is its own thing. And it really works with the dynamic, the family dynamic, but in the particular between you two. How did you achieve that chemistry? Was it on the page, in the script, or was it something that you found as you were spending the time together and working through the lines?
You know, I got funny relationships with the word chemistry because to me it always kind of, you have these things like when you audition for things or people are being cast, there's these things called chemistry reads. And it's often, it's not that often that they refer to chemistry between two men. It's kind of this slightly sexualized kind of concept that I've always thought to myself is, I don't know, I feel like chemistry is two good actors just getting in there and working together. You know what I mean? It's like,
You're pretty creepy.
no, I don't mean it's not that at all. It's just that whenever I hear it, I always think, here's the thing. The chemistry kind of implies that there's going to be something outside of the work.
Like a pre-existing thing.
A pre-existing thing outside of the actual work that is going to exist. And I've had people that I really can't stand, but I've had chemistry with. Because
No one's listening. Any names?
because you know, because you roll up your sleeves and you listen to somebody and you talk to somebody and you feel something, and the writing is good.
Yeah.
For one thing, you know, I'm sure as a writer you must go, Jesus, not with the chemistry. I wrote the scene, you know. I don't know.
It does occur. It was nice. One thing I noticed also, the slight difference is 25 years later, movies are paced differently. And this is a brisk movie, but it's cut like a movie from 25 years ago. Gosh, I prefer it. Things are given time to develop, and the shots are a little bit longer. And the opening, you know, aside from there's the creepy kid in the bathtub opening, which then sustains us through 12 or 14 minutes of just family exposition. You know, that she's pregnant and that sister's doesn't like him and he feels ordinary, and you know, there's a lot of just domestic drama that we get to coast through, but it holds. I don't know.
Do you, watching it tonight, will you think is the directing something that you would rather do, or is it the writing? Of the two things, what were the things that like struck you that like, God, that was the best experience?
On this particular film?
On this one,
This was a pretty good one from beginning to end. They're not all, or if you have a good experience, it's often just a dreadful film, and vice versa. But this was very pleasant. I loved writing it.
What time of year was it? I can't.
That we shot it September, October, because
I had to get all that snow.
I told you I was going to watch the Green Bay Packer game on Monday Night Football. You didn't believe me. I had two monitors.
Very big Packers fan.
The snow was fake, you know, fake snow. Very gushy. It was like animal fat. It was really disgusting. Probably made a lot of people sick. But it looked great. It was 1999.
You do
Stuff like that.
For the research, you were hypnotized as part of the research for this, correct?
Yes.
Talk us through that, please.
we were in Chicago, and a lot of the I was in Chicago for a good long time, which was really nice, because the people on the block, they all were from local theatrical productions. I went to a bunch of theater and just would, you know, see people that I liked and cast them, because it had a real feel to it. And the same with going and getting hypnotized, there was just time for that. I went with Ileana, and we were both hypnotized, and I didn't have a profound experience, but I did have an experience in which, you know, I was guided into a deep state of concentration, and I was in this place, and I was supposed to write something in a book, and then read what I'd written to myself in the book. And
Dig in giant letters.
yeah. No, I wrote something else that kind of bothered me, and I thought about for 8 or 9 years. But it was, you know, any of that kind of stuff that can inform, or give you any little bit of vibe or feeling or something you can, you know, suggest that maybe gets an actor's mind going is helpful. But the hypnosis sequence in the book, particularly the first one, is almost exactly what I shot. the sequence in the book. I was reading it, and he was talking about a theater, and the seats are black, the walls are black, and you drift toward the screen, and I was like, this, just shoot it. It was overtly cinematic already.
It really is. It's also awesome, like seeing it in the theater as well, like that double thing. Kevin, no hypnosis for you?
No, I was terrified to get hypnotized. And it's. I have to say that it was kind of an unusual moment for me because generally, when it comes to the research part of things, I'm like, yeah, send me out there, put me in the cop car, whatever it happens to be to do the ride along. But when it came to hypnosis, I was like, I'm not doing that. I can't. No. And what's kind of weird about that is that many years later, I started to explore hypnosis. In fact, went into therapy using hypnosis, like a hypnotist who was doing therapy on me for a number of sessions. And I found it fantastic and informative and not scary at all. And found out that when Ileana Douglas says that, hey, you're part of the 8%. This person, having never seen the movie, said, well, you go deep, like right away. Like you are in this category of people. Like you can hypnotize me like right now in a heartbeat. So it was just funny that it came full circle, and I did. I thought back about the movie and I thought, what was it about me at that part of my life that I was terrified of that? And then, now, many years later, I'm like, oh yeah, it's great.
The other inspirations, so that's the research, other inspirations in that you had worked with Brian De Palma and Carlito's Way, right?
Yeah, Carlito's Way and Mission Impossible at that point.
Yeah. And you showed him the film, is that right? The script.
Yeah, the script, and talked to him about it a lot, and he was very, Brian's always very generous with his time. He's extremely gruff, and if you can take it, his notes are great, but they'll be devastating. They'll really upset you. But then you can, if you sift them and get the gems, you have some fantastic stuff to work with. So we actually at one point went through the whole script. We connected our computers and we went through the whole script. And he forced me to defend things, which is by attacking them, you say, no, I want to. They should do this because, and then you lay out your reasons. And a couple shots in there were his. At the beginning, he said, why don't you have the kid look right in the barrel of the lens at the beginning? Great idea to represent the ghost. And at the hypnosis scene, I was lamenting the fact that I have 7 people sitting around, couch, chairs, coffee table, and I have half a day to shoot it, and it's going to be like, 3 masters and a bunch of close-ups. It's going to be a nightmare. And he said, no, just get a crane and do one long shot that'll cover the first 2 pages of dialogue and end up in a close-up on him when he says, do it, do me. Which is exactly what's in the movie. And boy, does that shot work.
I like the ending up on the close-up of the meat bar.
It started a little wide though, didn't it? So he was super helpful.
And people don't know Brian De Palma necessarily. It's not like I don't know, But someday there has to be a side by side with Brian De Palma and David Koepp's imitation of Brian De Palma, which is the best. Which is the best. I just never mind. That's a dumb.
I do it to him actually.
Yeah.
Does he take your notes?
On this fucking movie.
Kevin, a lot of digging in this film. Kind of strenuous. What kind of?
Shame you weren't in shape for that.
Literally, Kara said to me, "That's why your shoulder is still so fucked up."
Did David put you through the ringer on this? Because you're going at it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I loved it. I loved every second of that. Sure. I mean, when you get it, to me it's like the coolest opportunity to just commit to something. And you get asked a lot as an actor, or let's put it this way, you don't get asked to necessarily physically commit all the time. So like that's part of what the instrument is, right? You have your voice, you got your eyes, you got your clothes, your hair, makeup, all those things. But you also have your body, and so I remember just feeling like this is amazing. Plus, when you put on the list of things that you get to do as an actor that you never thought you were going to, get a chance to do, whatever they might be, whatever. People never think they're going to ever ride a horse or, drive a motorcycle or whatever. I'd never used a jackhammer before. I'm and I'm man enough to admit it. So I got the jackhammer.
We'll throw it to the audience in a second, but the thing that really came through watching it tonight, and obviously it's in the script, but a lot of it, like you carry on your shoulders, there's a lot of humor in the film. And it punctuates perfectly all the way throughout. It was a very different experience, and I was having flashbacks of when I watched the film when it first came out, and it would have been, I don't know, DVD or VHS, whatever format it was back then. And I watched that at home versus tonight in this room with this audience, and every spot hit. Were you thinking about that all the way through? I mean, it's obviously like when you're dealing with a horror movie, you want to let the air out of the balloon and give the audience a chance to breathe. Exhale. Talk about that and how the two of you landed on that and working the humor through the film.
It's just inherent in trying to be real. Yes, you want humor. They never make jokes. No one can make a joke. The humor has to come out of who they are. I think one of the funniest moments in the movie to me is when he realizes her grandmother's dead, not just sick. And then the phone rings, and the things she do with her eyes while waiting for the phone to ring and her to go answer, that's kind of hilarious. And that's just out of who he is and what the character and what the situation is, not somebody trying to be funny. I think nobody tries to be funny in the movie. They are because they're obsessed with something. You particularly because he's profoundly obsessed and just has complete television.
That and the couch scene as well. When you're looking at the couch.
You're trying to make it normal. You're trying to, you're trying to find what's the reality in this extraordinary situation, and you would try to bring it back.
Yeah, I mean, David Koepp is not known as a comedy writer necessarily, but he's definitely one of the funniest people I know. So when you read his scripts, there is a inherent sort of it's not jokey, as he said, but there's always a little bit of a sense of humor to the way that the characters react to things. And it is because he seems to be constantly grounding them to, like, if you saw some crazy shit going on, what would you say? And then it's as though you go, okay, oh boy, whatever it happens to be, and for whatever reason, it always tickles me. It comes out funny. So I think I just think it's in the script.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It plays so well. Okay, for a couple questions?
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, how many questions? Okay, gentleman right here. Yeah?
I have a question. Really love this movie. It's been a long time since I've seen it. Mr. Bacon, you're a musician in your life. Was the guitar always part of the movie? That's something you kind of simulated for the social distortion shirt? Was that a personal choice or what were you over?
I think
I'll just repeat.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
So the question was about the Kevin is a musician, the guitar that's in there, the social distortion t-shirt, and was that in the script or did you bring that to the set?
Well, he was always a musician, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I think the socialty idea was mine. It was. And, because I was trying to figure out what it was at that period of time, the kind of stuff that he would be into, and all those things. I was trying to sort of make it, like, grounded in some kind of reality. And I will say that when it comes to that actual guitar, I remember very well that the prop guy said, what would he be playing? And I was like, oh, let's see, probably a Gibson J45 with a sunburst from somewhere in the late 60s. That would probably be what he would have.
Any idea where that guitar is now?
Yes, it's in well, actually my son has it right now, but I'm getting it back next week. I still have the guitar, and it's a great guitar, and not just because it was in the movie, I'm sure it was a lot of other places too, but I was very happy to get that particular prop.
Well played.
The guitar ended up with Kevin because we were a tight shoot, and we worked some obscenely long hours several days in a row, and deeply violated his turnaround. When an actor has to be able to get home and get back to, so you don't completely exhaust them. And on the third night in a row, we were about to violate our turnaround. I remember Michelle Weissler went over to me. I said, "Go talk to Kevin and find out what it'll take." And she came up to you and said, "Kevin, we want to do it to you the third night in a row. What's it going to take?" And you said, "I love the guitar." That was it.
Cheap it.
Oh, right there. Yeah.
Sorry in advance, I have kind of a stupid question, but I really want to ask it. In the sequence with Mr. Bacon, when you're digging in the backyard, you kind of were walking towards the house and kicked the bucket, and it flew up and smashed the window on the second floor. I was wondering, was that on purpose, and how was that done?
It was completely serendipitous. I don't even think I was supposed to kick the bucket. I'm not sure. I think it was a little bit of an improv. Maybe I was supposed to kick it. I can't remember. And I can tell you in no uncertain terms that I'm not an athlete. I couldn't do that again in a million years. I could stick it. I'd be out there all night trying to kick that bucket through the window. It would never go. But on that take, it worked. And the hardest thing, I was luckily had my back to the camera, right? Because I'm walking through the house.
It was the longest 5 seconds of the shoot. From the time he kicked it, when I was behind the camera, and I just was praying, go in the house and close the door. Go in the house and close the door. Please go in the house and close the door. Don't turn around and say sorry. Oh, thank Christ! Yes, I was lucky.
There's someone waving 2 arms right there, 6 rows back.
Hi. Well, I'm right here. Hi. First off, you guys are awesome. Kevin, my mom loved Footloose, so I love Footloose growing up. So that's awesome. You probably do that all the time. David, you're one of my idols. I wanna follow your footsteps, be a writer director. So my question for you is
You
kind
can
of
stop there and you'd be cool. But please.
My question for you is, do you have any special quirks, unique things you do on set to make the productions feel like they're yours?
I mean, he kicks buckets through windows. What more do you want?
That's for David, right?
That's for you.
To make it feel like it's mine? Well, that's the thing, is you gotta make it feel like it's theirs. You have to, because you can't, it's back to my theory of 7 people have to do great work. So there have to be things that make people feel truly, not just feel involved, but be involved. On this movie in particular, I remember I made hats that said "Rockin' Good News Peanut," which was just a reference of Wild at Heart and a Nick Cage line in that movie, which struck me as funny. And the idea was, if anybody offered an idea that we use, you got a hat. And so starting on day 1, anybody had an idea that we used, you got a hat. And that wasn't to lead to a free-for-all of ideas. And it was basically to make sure everybody had a hat by the end of the movie. But it was to say, I do want to hear stuff. I don't want to make this in isolation. And you don't want people taking over your movie, but you do. It gets back to some advice Brian De Palma gave me before I directed my first movie, which was, I said, what's the biggest mistake that young directors make that you see? And he said, not taking good ideas because you're afraid it'll make you look weak. It actually makes you look weak if you don't take a good idea. So that sort of thing you want to try to encourage.
That's great advice. Okay, I'm sorry, but there are people frantically waiting at the back of the theater.
Sorry. Hey, Kevin, I just want to ask, why the Minute Maid orange juice?
Minute Maid orange juice.
Yeah, well, that was actually not a question for me. It was very specifically orange juice in the script, so you take that one, PK.
I like the idea that he is compelled to do things we didn't know. I don't know why. I was typing and it came out. Sometimes they do that. Because I don't know, well, you know, what happens when you become psychic. I figured he gets headaches, he wants to drink orange juice. Those were the things that occurred to me. Good answer, sorry.
White shirt, armor, yep. She wanted to go to steps in one place.
So this is my first time seeing this, and I spent a lot of my youth in Chicago. Specifically for David, I see you tweet a lot of love out for the city. How much like the location process were you excited by? Oh, I want this skyline, I want this neighborhood, and was there any hurdles with that? And with Kevin's dream sequence, was that Music Box Theater?
No, it wasn't Music Box Theater. That was a theater in Joliet. We couldn't afford Music Box. It was a little too good. The city, I knew it, so I knew I wanted to go to, that sort of Polish town area. And then it's a great looking town. And it's got great cemeteries, which was really important. And the neighborhoods were very, very particular. So that was a really fun town to scout. And it was a struggle to get there because it was more expensive. We had $10 million all in, which is, a decent amount of money, but not a grand fortune. And so the pressure to shoot in Canada was really high. So it was close to Vancouver, it was close to Toronto, and I just didn't feel like we could make it look specific enough. They looked like you shot in Toronto. So that was a struggle, and happily Artisan gave us the extra couple $100,000 that it took to shoot there.
It's worth it, it really is. Okay, let's do a couple more and then we'll the gentleman was saying on his own, like a sweater, a brown sweater maybe? Okay, sorry.
Thanks so much for doing this, just amazing. So you hear about some of these supernatural horror movies, weird stuff happens, during the shooting or after. So question for both of you, was there anything like that?
Since we don't have to sell tickets anymore, no. Also, I don't believe in ghosts. I think when you're dead, that's it.
Yeah, I'm with you, bro.
Okay, that's all right.
But I am concerned about the drones over New Jersey.
My question is, you said that it's unusual for you to look back at a film that's 25 years ago, but how did you feel watching a film that I didn't quite get your answer about how it felt to look back and see your own work.
Yeah. I'm still processing, honestly. Can you call me tomorrow? It's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff. The funny thing about movies is that, I think a lot about, sometimes you think less about the actual movie and more about, this is where we were in our lives, this is what I was thinking about. This is physically where we were. It's how old the kids were. This is, things like that were going on. So there's sort of like a double, like, emotional connection to it. One is, how you feel about the work and the film itself, but then also just like a little bit of a time travel kind of thing. So I don't know. Honestly, I'm still thinking about it.
It has to be a weird experience for an actor to see yourself at all. It's horrifying enough. But it
I look great, actually.
You did.
I don't know what you're talking about.
When you see something, you're seeing a time period. You're seeing 25 years ago me doing that thing. When I see it, I see lines I wrote, shots I put together, a mix I gave notes on. And if somebody says, I didn't really like that movie, they say, I didn't really like that movie. If they say, oh, I didn't like him in that, it's so personal. I don't know. So, I get to hide. There's no hiding. So I can understand feeling kind of complex about it.
So the thing I'll say is, there's certainly no one in this room, but I couldn't imagine anyone saying that they don't like you in this film, and I can't imagine anyone saying that they don't like this film. The script that you wrote, and the directions you gave, and the way that you pulled this whole thing together. As I said at the top of this, this film doesn't just hold up. Actually, it's gotten better with age, and you touched on something about how you made the film and how it was shot and how filmmaking was different back then. One of the things that we love doing here is showing films from repertory screenings and films that look better today than half the films that are out there today, and I think you truly accomplished that with this film. It holds up, your performance is fantastic, your directing, let's do more of it, and let's have more of you guys together in movies.